Think about the last significant choice you made. Maybe it was accepting a job offer, ending a relationship, or even just deciding what to eat for breakfast. It felt like you were in control, right? That you weighed the options and freely chose your path. But what if that feeling of control was just an illusion? What if every decision, every thought, every action you've ever taken was predetermined by a chain of cause and effect stretching back to the beginning of time? This is the crux of one of philosophy's most enduring and unsettling debates: free will versus determinism. Are we truly the authors of our lives, capable of spontaneous choice? Or are we more like complex biological machines, playing out a script written by the laws of physics, our genetics, and our past experiences? The implications are staggering, touching on everything from moral responsibility to the very meaning of our existence. Welcome to the Noble Wisdom Path. Today, we venture into the profound mystery of human agency. Do we possess free will, the capacity to choose our actions independently of preceding causes? Or is every event, including our own choices, necessitated by prior conditions and the laws of nature, a concept known as determinism? This episode will explore the compelling arguments for both sides. We'll examine scientific perspectives from physics and neuroscience that seem to support determinism, delve into the philosophical defenses of free will libertarianism, and consider the middle ground of compatibilism, which argues that freedom and determinism might not be mutually exclusive after all. Importantly, we will also investigate the nuanced perspective offered by Buddhism, focusing on concepts like karma, intention, and the doctrine of non-self, anatta, which challenges the very foundation of the question. Prepare to question the nature of choice itself. Determinism, in its various forms, suggests that free will is an illusion. Scientific determinism often draws from classical physics, particularly Newtonian mechanics, where the universe is seen as a giant clockwork mechanism. If you knew the position and momentum of every particle at one point in time, along with the laws of physics, you could theoretically predict the entire future and retrodict the entire past. Every event, including human actions, would simply be the inevitable outcome of prior causes. While quantum mechanics introduced indeterminacy at the subatomic level, it's debated whether this randomness translates into meaningful free will at the macroscopic level of human brains and behavior, or if it's just noise. Biological determinism adds another layer, emphasizing the role of genetics, brain structure, and neurochemistry. Our genes influence our predispositions, personality traits, and even susceptibility to certain behaviors. Neuroscience offers particularly challenging evidence. Benjamin Libet's famous experiments in the 1980s showed that brain activity associated with initiating an action, the readiness potential, could be detected before the subject reported consciously deciding to act. This suggests the conscious feeling of deciding might be an afterthought, merely observing a process already initiated unconsciously by the brain. Subsequent studies have reinforced this, showing patterns of brain activity predicting choices seconds before conscious awareness. If our choices are initiated unconsciously based on prior brain states, which are themselves products of genetics and environment, where does free will fit in? Philosophical determinism argues from logic. Every event must have a cause. Human actions are events. Therefore, human actions must have causes. If those causes necessitate the action, then the action wasn't freely chosen in the sense of being able to do otherwise under the exact same conditions. Despite the strong case for determinism, the belief in free will remains deeply ingrained in our experience and societal structures. This viewpoint, often called libertarianism in the philosophical sense, distinct from political libertarianism, asserts that we do have genuine freedom and that determinism is false. The most powerful argument comes from our own subjective experience. We feel like we make choices. When faced with options, we deliberate, weigh reasons, and experience ourselves as the conscious originators of our actions. This feeling of agency is pervasive and fundamental to our sense of self. To deny it seems counterintuitive, dismissing our most direct experience of living. Furthermore, our concepts of moral responsibility, praise, blame, guilt, and regret seem to presuppose free will. If someone's actions were entirely predetermined, does it make sense to hold them morally accountable? We typically excuse actions caused by coercion, insanity, or physical impossibility precisely because we believe the person couldn't have chosen otherwise. If determinism is true for all actions, then perhaps no one is ever truly responsible in the way we normally assume. Libertarians argue that since moral responsibility is a cornerstone of human society and personal ethics, free will must exist to ground it. Some philosophers propose theories like agent causation. This suggests that free actions are not uncaused, but are caused by the agent, the person, themselves, acting as a conscious originator, independent of the deterministic chain of prior events. The agent initiates a new causal chain. While difficult to reconcile with a purely physicalist view of the brain, agent causation attempts to capture the intuition that we, as conscious beings, are the source of our free choices. The challenge for libertarianism is to explain how such free, undetermined choices can arise in a seemingly cause and effect universe without resorting to randomness, which doesn't seem like freedom either. Is it possible that the conflict between free will and determinism is a false dichotomy? Compatibilism argues precisely this. Free will and determinism can peacefully coexist. Compatibilists redefine free will, suggesting the traditional libertarian definition, the ability to do otherwise in the exact same circumstances, is flawed or unnecessary. For a compatibilist, freedom means acting voluntarily, according to your conscious desires, values, and reasons, without external coercion or constraint. If you decide to raise your hand, and you do so because you consciously want to, and nothing is forcing you or preventing you, then you acted freely. Even if that desire to raise your hand was itself ultimately determined by prior causes, your brain state, genetics, past experiences. Freedom, in this view, is about why you act, your internal motivations, rather than whether your action was metaphysically uncaused. You are free when your actions align with your authentic self, your considered judgments, and long-term goals. You are unfree when you are forced to act against your will, like being physically pushed, or when internal compulsions, like addiction or severe mental illness, override your rational desires. Compatibilism aligns well with our legal and social practices. We generally hold people responsible when they act intentionally and without coercion, even if we believe their actions have underlying causes. It allows us to maintain notions of responsibility while acknowledging the scientific evidence for determinism. However, critics argue that compatibilist freedom isn't real free will. If your desires and values are ultimately determined, are you truly free in a meaningful sense? It might feel like freedom, but it's a freedom compatible with being a sophisticated puppet whose strings are pulled by prior causes. The debate hinges on what definition of free will is truly valuable or necessary. Buddhism offers a unique and pragmatic perspective that transcends the Western free will/determinism framework. It doesn't explicitly affirm or deny free will in the libertarian sense, nor does it fully embrace fatalistic determinism. Instead, it focuses on the interplay of causes and conditions, the crucial role of intention, and the liberating potential of understanding the nature of self. The doctrine of karma is central. Karma is often misunderstood as fate or destiny, but it's more accurately described as the law of cause and effect applied to intentional actions. ****. Our volitional actions, driven by mental states like greed, hatred, delusion, or their opposites, generosity, kindness, wisdom, create imprints or tendencies that shape our future experiences and predispositions. Past karma heavily conditions the present moment, the circumstances we face, our habitual reactions, our personality traits. In this sense, we are not entirely free from our past. However, karma is not rigid determinism. The present moment also offers a space for choice, specifically, the choice of intention in response to current conditions. While conditions may arise due to past karma, how we react to those conditions, the intention we cultivate now, creates new karma that shapes the future. This is where agency lies in Buddhism. Through mindfulness, we can become aware of arising thoughts, feelings, and impulses before they translate into automatic action. We can observe the conditioned nature of our reactions and consciously choose a more skillful, wholesome response, one rooted in wisdom and compassion rather than reactivity. This capacity for mindful, intentional response is the core of Buddhist freedom. The doctrine of anatta, non-self, adds another layer. Buddhism teaches that there is no permanent, independent, controlling self or soul that stands apart from the flow of experiences and mental processes. What we call self is a constantly changing aggregation of physical form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, all arising dependently on conditions. If there is no fixed self, the question, "Do I have free will?" becomes ill-posed. Instead, Buddhism shifts the focus from a controlling self to the conditioned nature of experience and the potential for liberation through understanding and skillful action. It's not about absolute freedom from causes, but freedom within the causal process. The freedom to cultivate wisdom and compassion, to choose wholesome intentions, and ultimately, to break free from the cycle of suffering driven by ignorance and craving. The debate between free will and determinism plunges us into deep questions about our nature and place in the universe. Deterministic arguments, drawing from physics and neuroscience, paint a picture of a world governed by cause and effect, potentially leaving little room for genuine choice. Yet, our powerful subjective experience of freedom, coupled with our foundational concepts of moral responsibility, pulls us towards libertarian views. Compatibilism offers a potential reconciliation, redefining freedom in terms of voluntary action aligned with our desires, even if those desires are determined. Buddhism provides a pragmatic alternative, shifting the focus from metaphysical debates about an independent self making uncaused choices to the practical reality of conditioned experience and the power of intention. By understanding karma and dependent origination, and by cultivating mindfulness, we gain the capacity to respond skillfully to life's circumstances, rather than reacting automatically based on past conditioning. This is the path to liberation, not necessarily freedom from causality, but freedom within it, the freedom that arises from wisdom, compassion, and the understanding of non-self. Whether our choices are ultimately determined or not, the practice of mindful awareness and ethical intention empowers us to shape our path towards less suffering and greater awakening. Where do you stand on the free will debate? Does determinism seem more plausible, or does your experience of choice feel undeniable? Let us know your thoughts below. For more explorations into philosophy and Buddhist wisdom, please like, subscribe, and join us on the Noble Wisdom Path.